Man, peace and love, peace and love. It's your brother Isaiah again with another one for all the conscious brothers and sisters in the conscious community, keeping the struggle because we know that it's through the struggle that we grow. Also, I like to say that it is, in fact, a slow process for progress, that the race is not to the swift, it's to those that remain dutiful. So stay in this for the long haul. Y'all already know that my videos never constitute legal advice, not a legal counsel or an attorney. I'm just your brother sharing with you education and information about my walks, travels throughout my journey called life. And I like to extend these honors to you because when you're honoring man and you're honoring woman, you're honoring yourself. Let me give adoration to the Most High, Allah, who is the head and temple of my life, and extend that same love, courtesy, and acknowledgement to all of his messengers and prophets. Peace to you, beloved brothers and sisters, and grand rising to all of God's chosen people. How's my brothers and sisters today on this illustrious day? I'm great, taking it one day at a time. I'm blessed to be here. Uh, like always, everything is in step stages and degrees. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to make sure I cross my T's and I got all my I's, that I thoroughly investigate and probe out all information in order to get down to the nitty gritty, you know. But today I got something special for you guys. You know what I'm saying? We talk a lot about debts and stuff like that. But, you know, as a brother with a responsibility, I'd be remiss in my duty if I didn't provide certain information to the public, even if I didn't want to. There's certain things that I just have to do, you know, and it's just part of, you know, you give what you give, you shall receive, or you shall keep what you give, right? So it's like you have to understand it's an art to it. When you're dealing with truth, when you've been chosen to do a specific act, the worst thing you can do is not accept or embrace what God has chosen you to do. So when God chooses you to do a certain thing, you'll know when you've been chosen. You'll know it's something about it. Like, look, I'm gonna share this with you. One day I was sitting back and I was daydreaming, right? It was daytime. And I dozed off in a daydream, right? And in this daydream, in my own mind, I'm woke, but I'm dreaming though. It was crazy how it happened, right? It was almost like a meditation, right? So in this daydream, I had I was talking to God. So God was behind me. He was like, his voice was behind me, but the voice was my voice. All right. It was just more aggressive. It was more demanding. It was like it was speaking with more power. So I knew it was like a higher source of self, right? So as I'm talking to God, right? What I'm asking God is to let me see him, right? Look, I promise you, this is what it was. So we was talking, and I'm like, I just want to see you, man. Can I just turn around? Because I couldn't turn around. I couldn't move. I was like, I don't know what it was. It was like I was stuck. But it was my like God, my consciousness talking to me as God, right? So it was like it was saying, well, you know, if I show you myself, it was saying if I show you myself, it might scare you. And I said, well, why would I be scared of you if you God? So I'm talking about, but I'm talking internally in a daydream. So make a long story short, God said that he was going to allow me to see him. So he allowed me to will myself to turn around. Everything I love, I almost had a heart attack. I almost had a heart attack in a daydream. I promise you, when I turned around, you know what I seen? Man, you ain't gonna believe what I seen. when I turned around, I was looking at myself like a duplicate of me. And we was looking at each other. So first of all, I'm just looking. I was stunned because it was me standing there. And I'm looking and my heart racing because I don't know what this is. So my heart racing. And then something told me to move, like my hand or something, to see what was going to happen, like if it was a mirror type thing. I moved my hands and he did not move. We were standing like right next to it. It was so unbelievable. I woke up out the thing. My heart was racing and everything. I couldn't believe what I had just witnessed. And I didn't understand what the hell that meant. You know what I'm saying? I was like, man, like what the hell? And it blew it ever since. I never forget it because it was the only time it ever happened to me in my life. Just like one time. It only happened to me once in my life where I was able to actually dream and know I was dreaming and control my dream. Like I may have done it twice, but I think I was a kid then or a child then when that took place. As a child, you know what I'm saying? I think we more elusive with our thoughts and imagination. So I was able to control my dream. I was able to fly. I was able to go back into different time zones. I was able to do everything all while, and I knew I was dreaming. Man, I'm like, I'm gonna fly. I started flying. I was doing everything in this dream. And it was so powerful because I'm dreaming, but at the same time, I'm conscious of the fact that I'm in a dream and that I have the power to do all things in this dream. Right? It was crazy, man. But you know, I ain't never been able to experience that many times. I think you have to be in a certain state of consciousness or to get to that level, right? You know what I'm saying? Like no impurities. You have to actually be totally on your thing, you know what I'm saying? Because I've been able to experience levels of heights of spirituality based off just like being incarcerated, uh mainly Ramadan. That Ramadan was like one of the main things that actually allowed me to build a lot of discipline, to be able to read, to study, to exercise, to do things for myself. Because at first, when I started doing the fast, right, I didn't really understand what it was. I didn't understand the benefits of fasting. So, a lot of things as men and women, we have to learn, we have to grow as individuals of what's best for us. Like a lot of people fast without understanding why. So when I started learning about fasting, I wanted to know what was the real benefit for fasting, because just fasting to say I ain't eating and stuff, that ain't good enough for me. But when I started getting into the psychic part of it, like your mindset, where you building yourself to discipline yourself, like with straining, like self-restraint, being able to self-deny. You got self-negation, which is negative, and then you got self-denial, which is a positive. So being able to deny yourself to resist from things that not have self-control, like every woman you see with a nice little body, you ain't got to go chasing after her. You know what I'm saying? You got to have some kind of dignity, self-respect for yourself and for things like that. Being able to have control over your own thoughts. It's almost like somebody who had panic attacks and stuff, and they disconnected from their thoughts. So when you understand these things and you start learning all these different things, it started changing you. So I started fasting. And what I started realizing was at first it was just about food, it was just about no water. But then when I really started studying and really getting more into what fasting was for, I realized that it was a way for me to build ways of instituting new habits into my life. So throughout the fast, I can, stay away from something for 30 days. It take 21 days to create a habit or you break one. You know what I'm saying? So if I was trying to get rid of doing something that I wasn't doing, Like say if I was not working out and I wasn't exercising during the fast, it'll be mandatory that throughout the fast, the whole fast, that I have to work out, because that'll be part of the sacrifice that I make to resist from not doing. See, I'm fasting from being lazy. That's what I'm fasting from. You see what I'm saying? So, and also we got the food. Then if I like to say the word nigga, right? Throughout the fast, I would not say the word nigga. And if I did, I have to jump down, do 50 push-ups or something. I have to give myself a punishment in order to hold me accountable for any act. So I had to build a structure for myself to learn how to self-correct myself. See, what I learned is that when you give the mind time to itself, it'll self-correct itself. We are a self-healing organism. Everything about you is self-healing. You know, if you the reason why some of us are so crazy, it seems so crazy, is because we don't have time to self. We don't have enough time to really deal with ourselves. Like most people have never had the time to sit back and just reason with yourself. Like, you know how many days I had sitting in a cell, just me by myself, just dealing with my own. You know how it is. Have you ever just dealt with your own thoughts, your thoughts, the things you've done? You sit back and you just thinking about everything you've done, every woman you did wrong to, everybody you did wrong, you beat up or you stole something from. Everything that you know, and then you think about all the good things, and then you start trying to weigh the options. You go through this metamorphosis, man. Like in that cell, I went through what's called a metamorphosis. I went through a cocoon. I went through a transformation to become a new product, because what I had then wouldn't be able to be what it is now if I didn't let all that go. So in order to have life, I had to die. See, I had to let something else die off. And when it died off, I began to live a new life. I allowed new things to come in. I allowed a new character to be built. You see what I'm saying? So life and death are synonymous terms. You can't live if you haven't died, and surely when you die, you should have life. See, when you understand that, what I just said, that's when you know you woke, because you understand. And then you can understand the resurrection from death to life, because you understand how things work. It doesn't start to sound mystery or to mystify in any way. It starts to make plenty of sense. I went through a lot of changes, man, in order to do what I'm doing today, right? And a lot of people that want to be in this position, you would have to go through what I went through in order to know what I know, and in order to be who I am, to do what it is that Brother Isaiah does. Okay, for us as a people, because we are a people and we are very intelligent people. We are magnificent. We're extraordinary. And everybody knows it. But you. Everybody knows it. But why don't you know it? Why won't you accept it? You've been chosen. You see all the chaos around you? It's because you allow it to be that way. You are the answer to everything. If you just believe in yourself, if you just know who and what you are, and stop using your power for evil means. Use your power to build, to structure a better way, a better life for us all. If we all came together to unify under one goal, which is to see us rise as a collective whole, I want to make sure that my future has a promising future. My children have a promising future. Don't you want that for yours? I want to make sure that they have things that's promised to them that they're entitled to by right. I don't want my blessings going to somebody else's family because of my lack of ignorance or my lack of being able to hold myself responsible. When I know this truth is out here and I know what's going on and I won't get into the groove, I still want to continue to work and do everything normally and don't want to fight. You got to make sacrifices here. Got to make a sacrifice. That's part of how it goes. You think it's easy for me now because I've actually had the time to do things that you might not have the time to do. I've been able to discover things that you may not have the time to discover. But I took a lot of time for me to get this kind of time. It took a lot of time for me to get this kind of time. I'm just glad that I was smart enough and wise enough to listen. That's right. I said, listen, because I didn't know anything. When I went to prison, I didn't know anything. I thought I knew it all. I ain't gonna stunt. You couldn't tell Brother Isaiah nothing. But inside those walls, I realized who and what I was. And I had to come to a grip of reality real fast. Real fast. And, you know, any man, I went to jail when I was 19. So I was still a child for real. An adult, they say you're an adult, but I was still a child, right? In my mind. Because I hadn't grown up yet. I had never even had a father. So I never knew what a father was or what to look for a father. You know what I'm saying? Because that part was missing. You know, I hold a lot of, I say I hold a lot. I think I hold a lot over my mother's head. I really do. You know, say a whole lot without saying a lot, but I hold a lot over my mother's head. And I really don't even hold my father accountable for all the missing time that he wasn't there and maybe not still being and he's still alive, you know, stuff like that. And you realize that you don't want to give that to your child. So you become the difference. You become that missing part to strengthen up that link that may be broken. Look, I'm gonna share a story with you. My father came home and Pops, I love you, man, but I gotta tell the truth because the truth shall be known, man. Listen, my Pops, I never even met my Pops that I can recall. I remember seeing him when I was a child and we went to the prison or whatever. I remember being on some swings and stuff, talking to him and stuff, right? My first time actually really talking to my father was when I was 16, that I can recall actually ever knowing that this man is my father. Okay. And was I 16? I might have been 16, may have been 14. I can't remember. It's between 14 and 16, right? Anyway, we was already in the streets. I'm from St. Louis, so we move fast. We do things a lot quicker. Back in 1993, 94, I was out there 13, 14 years old. We getting paper. We selling and hustling. I started young. I had children at 14 years old. So, I started young. I was out there advanced. I was in and out of juvenile boys' home, groups homes. I was a very active child. Let's just say it that way. I just didn't know how to channel what I had because I didn't have nobody grooming me. or showing me that I had something, you know. So I just was like on fire. I was just out there doing everything, just trying to figure it out, you know. I'm doing whatever it takes to make it happen, right? So I experienced a lot of different things that a lot of my other siblings didn't experience because of the things that I went through. And it advanced me. It allowed me to be, you know, what you see today, you know, through all those different schools of thoughts, different classes and schools and teachings that I went through. Uh, it's like, man, it was crazy. But let me get back. So Pops, I seen him when I was like 16. And I can recall we was talking and my uncle, they was rolling up some weed, right? And, you know, they sprinkle a little bit of the little powder in there, whatever, and they roll that thing on up. Now I'm saying I know what this is. These primos, like I don't, you know, I ain't, we don't do no crack now. We don't hit no girl, none of that. Like I'm your son, right? Man, why they try to pass that thing to me, man? Why you try to pass on a habit to me like that? If I wasn't smart enough to be in them streets to know what was going on, because he didn't know what we knew, you know, or how advanced his sons was at the time. He just knew we was his sons. He wanted to see us, you know. I'm pretty sure he knew we was out there, but he just didn't know. Like sometimes you just don't know the level of what your children are doing, right? Especially if you ain't been around them, you know. So kind of hurt my heart a little bit that he would even offer that to me like that. You know what I'm saying? So nah, pops, we don't do that. You know. So you know that right there was like my first experience of getting to know this man that I call my father. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I feel like to me, you know, I used to for the longest when I was incarcerated, I used to think about all the things my mother did. I used to be like, man, my mama this and she that, and she this and she that. You know what I'm saying? I used to be thinking 1,000 things. I'm mad at mama. You know what I'm saying? But then all the things I'm mad at her for is because I lacked the understanding, right? So, you know, I didn't understand that she was young and she had a lot of children at a young age and how hard it was for a female, especially one they quote unquote call black, to have 4 or 5 kids at a young age and being out here like that, you know. So when you don't understand these things, you have to grow up. First of all, you got to become a man or a woman in your own way of being to even understand what happened then. Cause I can't even like a lot of things I was probably mad at my mama for. Once I started living my life, I started realizing, damn, you know, wait a minute, I was mad at you know, wait a minute, I had to go back. So, cause you never understand until you actually experience these things for yourself. But in all honesty, I realized that my mama could have gave me up. She could have said, hey, put them in the trash can. I don't want these children no more. You know, give them all to the adoption center. She could have did a lot of things, man, that she didn't do. So as mad as I wanted to be, I had to accept the fact that, you know, she did the best that she could with the limited knowledge and information that she had. And to clothe you, to feed you, to bathe you, to deal with all your crap. And then you grow up to, because a lot of us, we grow up, and when we grow up, you know, we got all these different things, but I could never probably, I know for a fact I could never give her what she gave me, you know, and that's without my father being there. You know what I'm saying? So, I honor that. Her birthday just passed. I want to, wish her a happy birthday. Uh, it's crazy, man. The way things are and the way that life is. And you just have to, you got to pick up the pieces and you got to put your life together. No matter what hand you get dealt, you play your hand to the fullest. You know what I'm saying? You learn the game, and then you play the game the way the game is supposed to be played. That's the way it goes. That's the way it is. A lot of people say, "Oh man, they changing this stuff." They ain't changing nothing. This stuff been written like this for a long time. This is codified stuff. They ain't change. Oh, they're gonna change the process. They can't change something that is what it is. It's written. It is what it is. It's law. It's legal. And once you understand that, you understand I ain't no change. It's about what you know. That's what it's about. But I'm gonna share something with y'all today. I'm gonna go into, as you know, we talk about debts a lot, right? We talk about, that you can endorse debts, you can do some kind of modification of the debt in order to make the debt to where it's suitable for your needs and whatever you need to use that instrument for. Use because usually debts come with amounts due. So we want to do amounts of our debts to be used by us, not by nobody else. So if I get a lease with due rents, I want those due rents in that lease to be used by me. I don't want nobody else to collect them or use them without me having the rights to them first. So that's what we want to learn is how to take possession of our rights to whatever value that these instruments state that we are entitled to. This is what we're doing. Ain't no more you going to pay nobody something that they saying is due to you. It's time to redirect the way that you think and change the direction of your mindset because God didn't make you the tail. He said that you are the head. And if you are the head, then that means you are the head of the state. That means you are the people because the people are the head of the state. The state owes its obligation to the people. Remember that. Always remember that. Well, I'm gonna share some. I'm gonna go into something. Uh, y'all know our brother Isaiah. When I get to, pulling up the screen, I'm about to get busy, right? Y'all know how I get down. Y'all know brother Isaiah. I don't come empty-handed. Never have, never will. Always come with full life, full substance. You can always learn with brother Isaiah. Here at Building Better Minds, that's what we do. We build a better mind for us in our community so that we all can have a brighter future, because that's what it's about, right? So, like I said, we want to talk about modification of the debt. Okay, so first I'm gonna pull up some definitions to some words. Because, brother Isaiah, I'm real big on definitions. Okay. We live in a legal system. So legally, you want to know legally what words mean. Okay, it's cool to have a common practice of words, but legally, and I can show you some things that I feel that you should know, should be into, right? But we're gonna look up the legal definition of debt. Okay. So I looked up the legal definition of debt instrument. Okay, okay, a debt instrument is defined as a formal agreement. So first of all, a debt constitutes some type of agreement between parties. So the instrument is pertaining to some type of agreement pertaining to some type of payment plan, right? Right? Agreement in writing that promises repayment of borrowed money. So a debt is an instrument promising repayment of borrowed money. It includes various types of bonds, debentures, notes, and certificates of deposits. These instruments are used to raise capital. So these instruments raise capital and facilitate the transfer of debt obligations between parties, enhancing liquid liquidity in financial markets, right? So it's letting you know that the instruments, they raise capital off of the instruments. And the debt instrument, right, is what they use, it's the promises, right? So when you understand that debt is a reciprocal promise, right? It's a debt instrument. Debt instruments are primarily used in finance and in investment law. They play a crucial role in the corporate finance, securities, regulations, and banking law. Individuals and business may encounter debt instruments when borrowing money or investing in securities. Users can manage some aspects of debt instruments through legal templates available from U.S. legal forms, which can simplify the creation and the understanding of these instruments, right? So basically, we know that the debt instrument is some sort of valuable instrument. So the way that they do it, now we're gonna look this up. So now we got a legal definition of debt, and then we're gonna look up currency, right? I didn't spell that right, but it's okay. Currency. It says legal definition of currency refers to a system of money issued by a government, right? That is used for transactions and exchanges. Okay. We was just reading about debt instruments and how they use them to build generate corporate revenue and stuff like that. So we understand that the debts is what we receive when we apply for loans. So now we got to understand what is currency, because the debt could be also considered as currency. So understanding the full understanding of what it is critical, because it helps you understand what the item really represents, right? So a legal definition of currency refers to a system of money that is used by a government that is used for transactions and exchanges, right? It is recognized as legal tender and has an assigned value, okay? Currency can include physical forms like coins and banknotes. So what is a banknote? Okay, we're gonna get to that next, okay? Because see, with me, I want you to learn, because learning is fundamental. And for you to learn is how you grow in understanding what's going on. It's you can talk all till you blue in the face, but can you prove by information? Show me on the screen so I can understand. Okay, so currency can include forms like coins and banknotes, and as well digital currency, right? It is governed by law that regulates its import or export and used with in a country. So currency is a form of money, right? But it's legally authorized and issued by the government itself. The government backs this currency. So, like when you receive a lease or a license, that's considered as a debt, but it's also considered as currency, meaning money backed by the actual government who issues it. So, if it's a United States currency, then it's backed by the full faith and credit of the United States to govern that currency. So if you didn't receive the full value of something, then you have to go to the one that's backing it, right? So understanding that it's a system of money issued by a government. So every time you go out and you get a loan, you got to stop thinking that the issuer is the actual entity. It's actually the state or government that's issuing debt, and they're acting on that state of government's behalf, right? And understanding that is critical, right? So now we got currency. Now we're gonna look up banknotes, because currency also is considered as a banknote, right? And most people don't know what a banknote is. So when they actually have one, they don't even know what to do with it. So a banknote is defined as a negotiable See the word? I didn't say it. Don't you put that weight on Brother Isaiah. I didn't say it. I just showed it to you. It's a banknote, right? Right? It's usually backed and funded by a bank, right? And it's a negotiable promissory note. Look, it says a negotiable promissory note issued by a bank payable to the bearer on demand. Who is the bearer? Okay, we're gonna get to that. It is considered legal tender. So if you apply for a loan, don't you get, brother, don't get me started because y'all know I turn this thing down. You know I will because I'll show you what it means. All right. It's a banknote, right? Now it says meaning it is recognized as a form of currency for transactions. So maybe you applying for things, and then when you getting them, you don't even know what they are. So you don't know what to do with it because you don't even know what it is. So, but fundamental is education, is to learn. We are here to learn, to discover. So don't be afraid to learn. Learn. Educate yourself. Stop working for them and start working for yourself. A lot of y'all still working as individuals. With this type of knowledge, I would never work as an individual. I would be a 1099 contracting employee, right? Because we'll be doing business to business transactions because everything I do as a business. I am a business. Any part of my my operation is part of my business. I don't care whether I'm flipping tables, washing dishes. I don't give a damn what it is. It's part of my business. And when you understand that aspect, you'll have more rights to stand as a company, holding your own rights over your own stuff rather than somebody else feeling like they have some type of right over you. But yeah, so you got banknotes. It's a negotiable promissory note issued by a bank payable to the bearer. But you know what? It's so much deception, man, because you wouldn't even know you had a banknote. So you go and you apply for a loan with a dealer. The dealer tell you, oh, we got to get a financer. He don't tell you that the note is a bank note, right? He don't say that. He don't say, oh, it's a bank note. I got to get a bank to finance it. He don't say it like that because that'll be telling you too much information. You know what I mean? But let us here at Building Better Minds tell you what a bank note is. Okay. So when you go to the dealership and you apply for a loan, say you go to the dealer and you don't have a finance, you don't have your own paying agent. So you say, okay, man, I'll let you go and run my joint, to whoever. He go run it with 12 of his lenders. Ah, hit you 12 times inside the head. Wow, you get approved by one of them. You come back. Capital One approved you. Okay. So now Capital One is the bank, right? Funding the promissory note. And the promissory note is considered as the installment loan contract, which is also being disclosed to you as truth in lending, meaning it's a legal tender to you. They're actually issuing you legal tender and giving you disclosures of the amounts being tendered to you. Because you incompetent, or we're incompetent, let's say it that way, because they made us incompetent. Because if they would have taught us this stuff in school, we wouldn't be incompetent. Incompetent is not a bad thing. It just means that we lack the understanding, you know. But you're incompetent. You think, oh, you ready to fight? Oh, he called me incompetent. He just saying lack understanding, man. That's all it means. It ain't a bad thing to lack understanding. The thing is to gain understanding so that you're not incompetent, you know? So keep that in mind. So being able to recognize when you're actually receiving a legal tender of money is critical. So, I want you to really get it. So you're not confused. You really understand the transactions now to where you're understanding what's actually taking place when you apply for a loan and why they issuing you such type of documents. Critical. All right. So banknotes are used for money circulation. For money circulation. I'm gonna show you something. I'm gonna show you the way I think, right? Here in a second. Banknotes are used for money circulation and are treated as money in business transactions, allowing the holder to receive immediate payment upon presentation. Uh, mm, man, need I say more? No. Enough be said right there. Man, did you see what that said? Did you see? Hold up. See that? Banknotes are used for money circulation. Hold up. Let's see. I'm sure that's I say I think different, right? So I'm gonna look up the legal definition of money circulation. All right, because see, a lot of y'all wouldn't even look that phrase up. You just look up money. You might look up circulation, but you wouldn't look up the phrase money circulation. See, but me, I'm different. I understand that certain things that they say, and they say it in a certain way, they saying it like that for a reason. So that make me want to know what is money circulation because you or in your mind you think you already know what it means to circulate money, right? But this is legal. So you got to actually look this up so you can get a better understanding of what is money circulation. So look what it says. Check it out. The legal definition of money circulation refers to the currency or the notes that are in circulation within a country. Mm. In the United States, it includes all coins and currency issued by the U.S. Treasury or the Federal Reserve System, which are recognized as legal tender for all transactions. Money circulation is also described as an amount of cash in the form of paper notes or coins that is physically used to conduct transaction between consumers and businesses. So now, we know the truth now. Okay. See, this is how you learn, like I'm not guessing none of this, yo. What I'm showing you is that you have to be competent. You have to understand what the system is. A lot of people don't understand what it is. You have to gain the full knowledge over what you're trying to do. If you've been in this as long as I have, you should at least have some kind of hold on stuff by now. It don't take forever to figure it out. It's codified, but it can't box with that though. See this code right here, this thing right here. Woo, ain't nothing like it. See, I keep pulling up the same information. They locked in. This right here is unlimited. What? Unlimited. Hey, listen, ain't got no constraints or nothing on it. Free enterprise. Free enterprise. Let me stop playing, man. Oh, shoot. Oh, man. All right. I'll stop playing, man. I'll stop playing. All right. Y'all ready? Y'all ready, though? I'm about to get into the topic now, man. I just been, what I'm saying? I had to get you warmed up. Brother Isaiah, I got to get you going first. You got to get the juices flowing, have a little laughter or something, now we're going to get down to the nitty gritty, right? Now we're gonna get down to the nitty gritty. I'm gonna bring you to what I brought you here for. Make sure you like the video. Please like the video, share the video. If it's your first time, please hit the subscribe button. As many subscribers as I can. Get the message out to the people. I'm not on here just talking, y'all. I'm actually on here actually providing information that's life-changing information and giving out interpretations and understandings based off my own experiences that I feel can help a lot of other people in their journey. So make sure you spread the word. Let them know. Check us out, buildingbetterminds.info. We got a lot of great information, a lot of different things that um, we offer to the people, man. And outside of the work that I do here in order to help, show people, different aspects of what we offer, different things that I feel like there's a lot of people that offer a lot of different things, but I feel like here at Building Better Minds, it's exclusive, man. I'm just gonna say, man, it's exclusive, man. And hey, listen, you missing out. I'm gonna share a little something with you today. Because I've been holding it back for a minute. I said, man, I'm gonna go ahead and put a little something in circulation. I ain't been putting nothing new into the. I've been really building on a lot of the old information and a lot of the new stuff I got just tucked away, ducked down. I got it tucked away, but I'm wise in the way that I'm utilizing this information. So I'm gonna pull up something for y'all, right? To help bring a little bit more clarity to as why I did my presentation the way I did it today. Okay. Check this out. It's what I do. This is what I do. This is what the brother do. Don't be surprised. No, you can't do it like me. No, you can't do it like me. I know you can't do it like me. Huh. No, you can't do it like me. No, you can't do it like me. Huh. Yeah, look, check it out. So now we're dealing with modifications of debts. That's what we was just talking about. See, I say anything Brother Isaiah tell you, he can show it to you. I guarantee you that, man. You can't miss him. The boy is cold. I'm trying to tell you, the boy is cold, man. Got to talk about myself in the third person because, man, he on fire, man. I'm trying to tell you, he on fire, man. And he don't miss. The boy don't miss. You hear me? He don't miss. All right, now look. Now we're going to talk about modification of a debt instrument. Now, we just went over what debt instruments are and what they're for. Okay, so don't, please, take your time. Go back over the video if you have to. Okay, if you need to get a one-on-one, you can get a one-on-one with me if you need more details or more resources. But okay, this one for the people. This one for the people. 2.0. This for you. This for the people, man. All right. We're gonna talk about debt modification today. Okay, modification of a debt instrument. This section provides the rules for determining whether a modification of the terms of a debt instrument result in an exchange for the purposes of 1.1001 through 1A. This section applies to any modification of a debt instrument, regardless of the form of the modification. For example, this section applies to the exchange of a new instrument for an existing debt instrument, or to an amendment of an existing debt instrument. This section also applies to a modification of a debt instrument that the issuer and the holder accomplished indirectly through one or more transactions with a third party. This section, however, does not apply to exchanges of debt instruments between holders. Now, so we know that this is talking about everything that we want to know about. So we're going to tap on some hyperlinks today because we want to make sure that we get the right comprehension of what we are reading. Now, when we read this word, it says the rules. What rules is it talking about? Rules stock owned directly or indirectly by or for the partnership is considered as owned by any partner having an interest. So it's telling you, whenever you dealing with a partnership, the stock should be owned by one of the partners. It should be owned by one of the people that have the rights in the partnership, right? Having at least 5% or more in either capital or profits of the partnership in proportion to the partnership interest in capitals or profits, whichever such portions is greater. So these are the rules, right? Now let's go back. Now, we're talking about modification. What is modification? The term modification means any change in the terms of an option. What is an option? An option to purchase. Okay, so we say any change in an option. See, here at Building Better Minds, I say you're going to learn. So you come in so you can learn, so you can be taught the right and correct way to understand the system that you're operating under. Okay, every now and then I put a little something out like this so that I can show you, because sometimes you have to see it to believe it, right? And it is there, it's true, right? It means any change in the terms of an option. What is an option? An option for you to purchase credit, right? Or a change in the terms of a plan pursuant to the option was granted, or in the terms of any other agreement governing the agreement that gives the optionee, which will be you, additional benefits under the option, regardless of whether the optionee in fact benefits from the change in the terms. What? See, nobody's going to show you stuff like this, but here at Building Better Minds. Did you read what we just read? Look, I'm gonna have to read it again because you probably don't even understand what it's saying, right? Now it says that it gives, let me read it again, that gives the optionee the benefits under the option, regardless of whether the optionee in fact benefits in the change in the terms. So some kind of change is going on. Remember what I was talking about? I say, title shift. Y'all remember Brother Isaiah was talking about a title shift. I said, I don't give you nothing empty. You better fill your cup up, because I'm gonna have that thing overflowing here in a minute. All right. It says, in contrast, for example, a change in the terms of an option shortening the period during the option is exercisable is not a modification. Period. During the optional is, however, a change in providing an extension of the period during which the option may be exercised, such as after the termination of employment, or a change in providing an alternative to the exercise of an option stock, such as a stock appreciation right, is a modification regardless of whether the optionee in fact benefits from the extension or alternative right. Similarly, a change providing an additional benefit upon exercise of an option, such as a payment of a cash bonus, or a change providing more favorable terms for payment for the stock purchase under the option, such as a right to tender previously acquired stock, is a modification. So it's talking about anytime the stock is modified to benefit to the person who's purchasing the stock. It has to be a modification in order for the one purchasing to receive payment of the stock, right? Now, when you click on debt instrument, it says except as provided, and it gives us a section, right? It says relating to certain annuity contracts. Why, when we read about a debt, why is it talking about annuity? Can anybody tell me why is it talking about annuity? Or is the government bankrupt, first and foremost? All right. Is there insurance in play? Depository, is there some kind of insurance coverage for all these different institutions that's operating out here, right? We got to understand what's going on. So annuity, so a debt is actually a right to credit. That's why in the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, it says an assumed debt of a consumer, because if you assume that credit is a debt, then it's your assumption. You are the one that determines the outcome and how the instrument should be paid. So if you paying it with debit and treating it as a debt rather than a credit that you have a right in a defense to receive, then you're the one that's doing it, not them. It's you. You're not modifying to your benefit, right? Now it says, see paragraph, in annuity contract, see paragraph J of this section. Debt instrument means any instrument or contractual agreement that constitutes indebtedness under the general principles of federal income tax law. Federal income tax law? Now, why is he talking about federal income taxes? Because a lot of y'all get confused with the federal stuff, but you got to understand that all business is done in a district, and all taxpayers are federal persons, right? Including, for example, a certificate of deposit or a loan, right? Nothing in this regulation under whatever these sections or however shall influence whether the instrument constitutes indebtedness for federal income tax purposes. For rules to treat certain instruments that otherwise would be treated as indebtedness as stock for federal tax purposes. So it's optionary, right? Tax exemption, special rules for tax exempt bonds are retired for the purposes of 103 and 141 through 150 of the Internal Revenue Code. All right, that's dealing with tax exempt bonds. And this deals with the general rules, right? A significant modification of a debt instrument within the meaning of this section results in an exchange, right? So let's look at this word exchange. All right, so we'll have to go to this part to see what the word exchange, and I'm gonna go there just so you can see what an exchange is. I want you to see it because like when you're reading this stuff, like when they give you certain stuff, like when it says an exchange, don't assume you know what it means. Like you see how I just did that, and I'm finna go look up and see what that means. You got to do that because if you don't, you never really get the full understanding of what they talking about, right? So now when we click on this, this is going to give us a more advanced understanding of what we was just reading, right? Now check this out. Definitions. The following definitions apply to this part. It says advance payment of premium tax credit means a payment of a tax credit authorized by 26 USC 36B and is implementing regulations which are provided on an advanced basis to an eligible individual enrolled in a QHP through an exchange in accordance with, and then it gives us Affordable Care Act, right? Affordable Care. So a lot of these things, right? You don't understand that you on an insurance policy, that you are the insured. And every time you apply for something, they're registering you as the one insured or the one entitled to receive balances as payment for premiums and insurance for services, but you're not receiving your actual payments is because a lot of things you don't understand, right? But I just want to show you this, right? I'm gonna go back, show you how you go and you look that stuff up to get a better understanding of what they're talking about, right? So now, all right, so right here it says a significant modification of a debt instrument within the meaning of this section results in an exchange of an original debt instrument for a modified instrument that differs materially either in kind or in extent. A modification that is not significant modification is not an exchange for the purposes of, so it's saying that if you give them an instrument and it's not considered as a modification if the exchange is of the same instrument and it don't get exchanged for a different kind of instrument, right? So it's something you got to learn, right? So it says, except as otherwise provided in subtitle A of the code, a gain or a loss realized from the conversion of property into cash, or from the exchange of property, or for other property differing materially either in kind or in extent, is treated as income or as a loss sustained. Now, income, the term income has the same meaning as it does under section 64 3B in the regulations that are under, except that income generally may not include a long-term capital gain. However, in the conformance within applicable state statutes, income may be defined as or satisfied by uni trust amount. What is a uni trust amount? We're going to look that up here in a second, right? Okay. So it is satisfied by a uni trust amount or pursuant to a trustee's power to adjust between the income and the principal, meaning the principal debt and the amounts due that you purchased with it. So he got the rights to adjust that balance. If you purchased the debt and it already had due amounts that were due to be applied later, and you can ascertain those amounts with the trustee to get an adjustment. See, when you get to understanding what's going on, it'll make more sense to you. But you got to really put the work in. A lot of y'all work too much, and y'all go and y'all do a lot of other things that don't benefit you. You got to put your time to this. This is where your benefits gonna come from. Okay, income and principal to fulfill the trustee's duty of impartiality. If the state statute both provides for a reasonable appointment between the income and the remainder beneficiaries of the total return of the trust and meets the requirements in exercising a power to adjust, the trustee must allocate to principal, not to income, the proceeds from the sale or the exchange of any asset contributing the funds by the donor or purchased by the funds at least to the extent of a fair market value of those assets on the date of their contribution to the fund or of the purchase price of those assets purchased by the funds. The definition of income applies for taxable years beginning. So, come on now. Need say no more. Man, you see it. You see it. You see it. Don't act like you don't see it. You responsible now. Yes, sir. You responsible now because you know the truth. Huh? What's a uni trust amount? We're gonna look this up. Oh no, you ain't getting away, bro. I'm gonna make sure you know. Huh? God said you would know. And that truth either set you free or put you in bondage. A uni trust is a type of irrevocable trust that provides a fixed percentage of the trustee's asset to its beneficiaries each year. This percentage is typically set at a 4% of the trustee's fair market value, ensuring a predictable income stream for the beneficiaries. So let me look up the legal definition of it. It hit different. All right. So a uni trust is a type of trust that requires the beneficiary to receive a fixed percentage of the trust net fair market value each year. This percentage is typically at least 5% and can be adjusted based on the trust performance. A trust assets are valued annually, and the payment amount is determined by multiplying the trust net asset value by a specified percentage. A unit trust are commonly used in estate planning to provide income to beneficiaries while supporting charitable organizations. Okay. So understanding that it's a unit trust amount, right, that you actually are entitled to receive uh, from the trustee's asset in the trust arrangement concerning the proceeds of that as income to you as the beneficiary. And the proceeds is always the due balances of the debt that's stated as the proceeds, because the reason why they're considered as proceeds, and proceeds is like cash payments. That's why they try to collect payment of the proceeds from you, and then they make you pay them in cash instead of giving you a credit of those proceeds from the agreement. Because the proceeds are cash payments, then they have the rights to collect them like cash payments directly from you, rather than actually allow you to receive proceeds as a cash payment for your agreement. In that sense, where which you have a right to assert that, right? Uh, okay, so right here where it says the fair market value of the property is a question of fact, but only in rare extraordinary cases will property be considered to have no fair market value, right? And the general meaning method of computing such gain or loss is prescribed by 101 A through D, which contemplates that the form that from the amount realized upon the sale or exchange. So when you say amount is the gross income from extraction. So from the time that you enter, it's the gross income from the extraction is determined by the reference of the fair market value of the minerals in the immediate vicinity, vicinity of the well. Fair market value is determined under the paragraph B6. So the amount that's realized or as a gain or as a loss will be the fair market value of the property that's being purchased, right? So understanding the fair market value, which they would not have a hyperlink for. Look, so they got a hyperlink, but when you click on it, it don't pull up nothing. Now, I noticed like when they do that, they hide something. So what is it about fair market value that they don't want you to know? So we're gonna Google this. Like I said, they whenever they do that, they hide something. Okay. All right, so fair market value. The fair market value is the value of property as determined by the marketplace or objective purchasers, rather than as determined by the subject individual. This is what an informed and unpressured buyer would pay to an informed or unpressured seller in arm's length transactions. The price is based solely on the value of the property, as opposed to if they were selling the property to a family member and giving them a special deal. Do you see that? So the value you're supposed to pay is the fair market value, the price of your purchase, right? In the United States, and it gives us a case, fair market value is defined as the price at which the property would change hands between a willing buyer and a willing seller, right? Neither being under any compulsion to buy or to sell, and both having reasonable knowledge of relevant facts, right? The fair market value is used in many laws and regulations like Internal Revenue Code and bankruptcy laws. In the US, the fair market value is commonly determined by judges in a hearing, yet in some jurisdictions, the courts are required to hold the fair market hearing through the two parties waive their rights to such hearing, right? So basically, so the fair market value is the price that exchanged hands at the time when you purchase. So if the value of the instrument is 50,000 and they exchange it into your hands, then you get to treat the instrument as 50,000 because they saying it's worth 50,000. So when you tender it, you can pay it as $50,000 check as a payment of 50,000. See what I'm saying? If it's due at 50,000, it should be paid at 50,000. So that's how we deal with that because we have a right to pay the instrument, right? So, so when you're reading this, it's talking about the amounts realized upon the sale or the exchange, right? So, Sale or exchange, the period for which a taxpayer has held a residence, the acquisition of which results under the provisions of 1034 in the recognition of any part of the gain realized on the sale or exchange of another residence shall include a period of which such other residence has been held as of the date of such sale or exchange. For the purposes of this paragraph, the term sale or exchange includes an involuntary conversion occurrence out. So either they're going to treat it as a sale or an exchange, right? The general method of computing such gain prescribed, which contemplates the form and amount realized upon the sale or exchange, there will be withdrawn a sums sufficient to restore the adjusted basis prescribed by 1011 and the regulations thereunder, i.e., cost and the basis adjust for receipts, expenditures, losses, allowances, and other items chargeable against the applicable to such costs, or of the basis, the amounts which remain after the adjusted basis has been restored to the taxpayer, constitutes the realized gain if the amounts realized upon the sale or exchange is sufficient to restore to the taxpayer. So they talking about when the taxpayer realized that he actually has a right to receive those payments and claim his rights to those payments, and then it's realized and the taxpayer actually gains the rights to have the balances adjusted to gain the benefit rather than be liable under the benefit that he's entitled to. See, you've been being liable rather than being gaining. Adjusted basis as a result of reserving the transaction under paragraph B7 of this section, a taxpayer would have an adjusted basis in the retained property equal to the cumulative allocable basis in the retained property allocable contract costs, reported under the contract in all prior taxable years. However, if the taxpayer received and retains any consideration, see right here. So we got to understand like what's going on, like tender of payment. Like you don't even understand that they tendering payments to you by issuing these instruments to you, and then you holding that instrument as consideration and not knowing what's going on, not knowing why you responsible, right? Why they charging you, right? So it says right here, however, if a taxpayer receives and retains consideration or compensation from the customer, the taxpayer must reduce the adjusted basis in the retained property, but not below zero. See, it's saying that you shouldn't adjust your debt, because if you holding a debit, you got the rights to adjust it and reduce the credit that come with it to reduce it. So if you're the holder of the debt, you can demand that the credit of the debt be applied to reduce its balance because it's your account. You have the rights to do an adjustment or an offset, right? You can offset your debts at any given time as the holder. You have the rights to apply any applicable balance towards your debt. So that's what it's talking about when it says that however a taxpayer receives and retains consideration and compensation from the customer. See, they're borrowing from you. The taxpayer must reduce the adjusted basis in the retained property, but not below zero by the fair market value. So you're supposed to reduce it to the same value as purchased. So if I purchased it at 50,000, I should demand that it be reduced or credit to 50,000, that there be an adjustment of its balance as a reduced balance. As the issuer, I have a right to demand reduction, right, of my credit, right, of the due balance of my debt, which is my credits. Instead of me paying those due balances, I have the rights to acknowledge those as due balances of my loan and demand that they be applied for readjustment. You see what I'm saying? To adjust the terms of the loan, right? The taxpayer must reduce and adjust the basis in the retained property below, not below zero, for the fair market value of that consideration or compensation, to the extent that the same amount of the consideration or compensation described in the preceding sentences exceeds the adjusted basis in the retained property. The taxpayer must include the assets and gross income for that taxable year of termination. All right. So the taxpayer has some kind of responsibility to do some type of adjustment. All right. Now, right here where I'm at, where it talks about items. All right. So those are the items. And then we got cost. The cost of this section 38, property equal to the basis of such property, but does not include so much of such basis as determined, right? By the reference to the adjusted basis. So when you see adjusted basis, you know what that is. That's when the taxpayer requests that his debt be adjusted from the credits that come with it, because every debit comes with a credit, and a debt is a debit of a deposit of funds, because you're using currency, which is money backed by the government to be exchanged with institutions. So when you apply for a loan, they give you currency to exchange or to tender, because that's the only type of thing that they can accept and hold the rights under. So you not understanding what's the transaction, that's why it's the default right up front, because most taxpayers don't understand what's going on. Now it says, if the property, whether or not Section 38 property is disposed of by the taxpayer, other than by reason of the destruction or the damage by firestorm, shipwreck, or other casualty, or theft, and used in 38 property similar or related in services, or used in is acquired as a replacement thereof in the transaction, in which the basis of the replacement property is not determined by the reference to the adjusted basis of the property replaced, then the cost of the used Section 38 property so acquired shall be its basis reduced by the adjusted basis of the property replaced. The preceding sentence shall apply only if the taxpayer acquires or enters into a contract to acquire the replacement property within a period of 60 days before or after the date of the disposition. Notwithstanding subsection 1 or 2 of this paragraph, the cost of use Section 38 property shall not be reduced with respect to adjusted basis of the property disposed of by reason of Section 48. Such disposition results in an increase of tax or a reduction of investment credits, carrybacks, or carryovers described in Section 46B. And the provisions of this paragraph may be illustrated by the following examples. The cost used in Section 38 property is equal to the basis of such property, but does not include so much of the basis as is determined by the reference to adjust the basis of other property. So it's basically saying, like, at the time when you receive a loan, right? When you apply for a loan and they tender the loan to you, the instrument itself is considered as a tender of funds, because it represents currency or money backed by the government that can be tendered in exchange for value and consideration. So they consider issuing currency, but also currency comes with a stated value, which is the true value of the instrument. And usually they give disclosures of the real value as truth in lending. So all currency comes with truth in lending of the lending value to pay off the currency. Currency is a insurance policy. It's an annuity contract. All contracts already have a due balance already purchased with them. Most consumers just are not aware of both balances. They see the due balance as the principal, not understanding the principal and the fair market value of the debt. Is critical. You got to understand what's going on. You got to really be awakened to, know what you're purchasing. And what, like I say, you go into the dealer, you think you buying a car, you ain't buying no car. You're purchasing a security for a car. And if you don't know that, you might as well just start over. Start over, right? So I mean, and this stuff just gives you so many examples. I mean, it's a very great read. I can't read it all, so I'm going up out of that. But that's just one of the definitions. And then, all right, you got the amounts which remains after the adjusted basis has been restored to the taxpayer, right? Constitutes the realized gain, right? If the amounts realized upon the sale, so if the taxpayer realized that he has the rights to gain the full balance of the loan and use it, then he can do an exchange to his benefit. He can modify the debt in a way that it will benefit him, right? Is sufficient to restore to the taxpayer the adjusted basis of the property. Now, what is property? Upon the transfer of a property in any transaction in which the basis of such property in the hands of a transferee is determined by the reference to basis of such property in the hands of the transferor. Such property shall, notwithstanding, right, the provisions of subparagraph 3 of this subsection, retain the same status and identity in the hands of the transferee as it had in the hands of the transferor. So if you give me a $50,000 lease, when it get in my hand, God damn it, I'm holding $50,000 against you. Hey, listen. Hey, hey, listen, man. Hey, it's beautiful when a plan come together, man. You got to put this thing together, man. So understanding property, man. See, it ain't hard. It ain't hard to get this kind of understanding. I mean, like I said, I'm a wizard. I'm a wizard with this thing. I didn't learn how to to navigate like Neo in the Matrix. You know how Neo was? He in the Matrix, he knew how to navigate the agents was running from him and stuff. Yeah. When you get to a certain level of understanding, you can actually, you know, because you can make certain claims, definite claims. I ain't guessing. I ain't assuming. I know what I'm entitled to. I know how to make my demands. You see, because I'm reading too much information that's telling me exactly what I need to be doing. I'm not guessing. I ain't already listen to somebody say, "Oh, read this and endorse this." And no, I didn't went past endorsement. I'm past that. Huh? I'm past that. You see what's on the screen? I'm past that. We got to get down into the mechanics of things. I got to know why you even sent me that bill in the first place. I got to get down to the mechanics. What's really what property is? See, when you're dealing with me, you're getting down to the nitty gritty. See, because I take you deep into it so you can understand all the aspects of what it is that you are dealing with. See, this is powerful. So, because this is telling you that if they're holding property and it's worth this amount and they're going to try to collect on it, but before they collect on it, they delivered it to you. This right here is saying, shoot, whatever rights he had and whatever amounts it stood for in his hands, it's saying once you get it, shoot, you got those same rights and amounts. Now that's power if understood. See, so now let's go back. So now we understand property. Now we got to say why it's talking about a loss sustained to the extent of differences between the adjusted basis. So now you should understand the adjusted basis because the property is going between two different parties who hold the same rights and value of the same property. he had this amount and he transferred it to you, signed it, you got that amount, you transferred it back to them, there should be a settlement of value. Zero. Zero. Issuer. Issuer. Defense or an obligation on a security. UCC 8201. Issuer. Is it starting to make sense, y'all? I've been trying to get you to see it. You think you're a debtor? You ain't no debtor. You're a person who has a right to an adjusted basis. We're going to get it together, though. We're going to get it together, though. You know? All right? Now, so that you understand that you got to realize whether you're going to make a gain or a loss on the property once you receive it. Is you going to issue it without gaining anything and you just received a benefit from them and then you're going to give it back to them without any gain on that benefit? We're going to treat them like you owe them something? This section prescribes the method of computing gain and loss upon the sale or the disposition of a term, interest, in property, the adjusted basis. Now, we say disposition. They ain't got that up there. Okay, we ain't going to worry about it. Interest. Interest means an economical interest in material deposits. So whenever you're making a deposit, you got a material interest in that deposit. If you open up a bank account, you're depositing bank information to the bank. The bank can't receive and open up an account and not acknowledge that an account receivable was received by them from you. You see what I'm saying? And that the royalties, the interest, the profits, the proceeds generating, extending from that deposit or that transaction, you are entitled to that. You're entitled to the full value. And nobody other than you should benefit or receive any benefits from it because it should be payable to you, right? And you being able to assert your rights, take your stuff, and claim your benefits against your property rights, realized upon the adjusted basis of your claims, right? Instead of the bank holding you to pay interest for overpayments and stuff like that, you have a right to realize that upon issuing that $250,000 asset to the bank, you have a right to receive an adjusted balance of the same total in order to offset any obligation extending from that asset. You see what I'm saying? Because it should be adjusted. The same balance that they received and realized that they received as a gain, the consumer has to realize and know that what he received. You got to understand that when you sign a signature card, you receive the value of $250,000. You got to know that. And you got to demand that there be an adjustment to offset your obligation. See what I'm saying? That you receive an adjusted balance to offset the account for your personal usage. You have a right to have a credit of the same value realized upon you knowing that you deposit a principal instrument and you didn't you're just not realizing your rights to gain an interest. Right? An adjusted basis, property from a decedent. See? And then it goes into real estate taxes as amounts received, right? So applicable in making an adjustment upon the sale of real property with respects to real property taxes appointed by the seller and the purchaser under. Thus, if the seller pays or agrees to pay real property, so the seller pays, right? He pays you by delivering whatever the instrument is, which represents the property. And then it says, or agrees to pay, because he don't actually necessarily have to pay, because once you sign it, you become the new holder of the property, right? And now you become responsible. And if you don't hold him to his promise, then he get off the hook. And then he gonna hold you liable. Attributable to the real property tax year in which the sale occurs, he has not taken into account in determining the amount realized from the sale under any amounts received as reimbursement for taxes which are related to and imposed upon the purchaser, right? Similarity in computing the cost of the property under the purchase shall not take into account any amount paid to the seller as reimbursement for real property taxes which are treated under section as imposed upon the purchaser. And these rules apply to whether or not the contract or the sale calls for the purchaser to reimburse the seller for the property taxes paid or to be paid by the seller. So it's letting you know if he's demanding payment, don't necessarily mean you're supposed to pay out your pocket. I mean, you can actually realize the gain of your proceeds and demand that the seller apply the proceeds rather than you pay out your damn pocket. Because you see, you got to realize the gain of your benefits. And then you got to draw on them. See, other hands, if the purchaser pays or is to pay an amount representing real property taxes, see, it says if you pay the taxes, the purchase price, or you end up having to pay the amounts representing that price, right? Which are treated under this section as imposed upon the seller, that the amount shall be taken into account, right? Both in determining the amount realized from the sale under this section and computing the cost of the property. So that what this means is if I realize that at the time of receiving property from a dealer, that they're not just giving me an instrument, they're actually tendering payment of value to me as a tender of payment, and I'm receiving a tender. And I realize that upon receiving that tender, I have the rights to pay the same. I can take out a check from my checking, my savings account. It don't even matter because I'm not paying nothing out of my account. I'm paying the purchase price of what I'm purchasing. So when you realize that, you can do great things, man. Like we making it too hard. You're making it too hard because you're not thinking. I'm showing it to you. Word for word. It didn't even give you an examples. See, it even show you examples, how to assume the purchase in an example, you know. So, because basically the seller is the one that's actually on the hook for everything because he's selling you the rights to purchase his assets at the price and pay that price to him, right? Because he's giving you the asset at a price. And when you sign it, you're receiving the price of the asset, which you have the rights to pay it back. But most people don't have that understanding, man. So, but I just wanted to show this, man, and share this little bit of information. Y'all can go back and look over this modification of the debt. You know, I'm gonna read a couple of more things before I get ready to go. I pray that this information help you and your family. If you like what I'm doing, please give me a like, give me a share. If you like to send a donation, you can send a donation. It don't matter what you send. If you like to, that's the Cash App, Building Better Minds. For any the information, any work that we provide for, helping, any donation helps our mission. So whatever you can do to help us, to help the mission to get out, to get more information to people, to get different tools and things made to, whatever we need to do to, spearhead this mission, then we grateful for whatever you can do. But at the same time, I want you to understand what modification of a debt is and why a modification is a very necessary process, and you being able to modify things to your own benefit, especially if you are the payee and you're the one entitled to the due balances. Okay, so understanding your role and taking action in that position is critical. So a modification is defined as an alteration of the terms. A modification means any alteration, including any deletion or addition, in whole or in part, of a legal right or obligation of an issuer or a holder of a debt instrument, whether the alteration is evidenced by express agreement or written conduct of a party. So, man, listen, when you have a right, don't be afraid to express your. If it says you give a security interest to the dealer, cross that shit out. Excuse my French, but cross it out. Line it out. And right in there, I reserve the rights to retain security interest in my own property. And put your initials. That's a modification. Y'all remember the story I shared with y'all about my grandmother? If you've been following Brother Isaiah, you remember the one I told you about my grandmother, how the lawyer was trying to tell her that she wasn't gonna get no money because they had already paid out part of the claim to other parties that were part on the claim. And then I told my grandmother, nah, they lying. I say, y'all got y'all own, y'all got the same claim number, but all y'all hold a separate claim under that number. And each claim should be up to 50,000 per person. So I said, he lied. So I started putting my grandma, she an older woman. So she don't, older people, they don't have time to play. They be serious. So she was serious about everything I was giving to her. To make a long story short, she ended up signing the check. She ended up everything. I never even signed my own insurance check for a car accident, but she signed hers, the check that paid everybody. Because that's how intimate and how, when she found out he was lying, and stuff like that. And she started, man, my grandma was on his head. Like, for real. She like, Dale, she called me, Dale, what you did? Okay, well, I'm going to get on him today. She was, hey, listen. And she ended up getting and she wanted, I think my grandmama wanted 7,000. That's all she wanted. She wasn't asking for a lot. And he was trying to give her like 1,500, 2,000. So when the settlement came in the mail, because they always send you the settlement in the mail, I told my grandmother to call me so we can modify the settlement. So that's exactly what we did. When the settlement came, we got the settlement. I read it over with her. I asked her what she wanted. She told me what she wanted, and then we started to modify. I read certain terms. I said, Grandma, do you want me to change this? And she said, well, why would you change it, Dale? And I'd be like, well, for this purpose. And then she'd be like, yeah, well, go ahead and do that. So I did that. We lined it out. We put her initials up there and we wrote in that, because he was saying that he was going to sign the check in her absence as her representative. We lined that out, put her initials, and said she reserved the rights to sign and issue her own securities. So we got that. Had a person that said she get 2,000, 2,500 or something. We modified that. As a security holder, she demands the full right to this balance, and it's non-negotiable. Boom, put that in there. Boom. We modified that whole thing, took it before a notary, got it notarized. The notary stamped the face of the document. We had it notarized on the face of it. Boom, notarized. Boom, on the face. Sent that thing in. Shoot. They called her that day to come sign the check. She got her $7,000. Everything. So modification is a very necessary process when you have rights to, if a contract is stating that a balance is due to you, modify it to where it's payable to you so that you can receive what's due, so that you can use the value of the contract. You can't use it if it's still due and you ain't using it. So modification. Okay. This is a lot of people be like, they scared, man. You better not be scared to do what you had a right to do. Scared of what? Yourself? Alteration? Nobody in no uniform gonna tell me about my rights. We ain't sitting in no courtroom. You need to shut up. Don't tell me about legally what I need to do. Okay, you file this. If they have a problem with it, back office, they'll send it back. We'll deal with it then. Okay, all right, sir. Yeah, don't give me no legal advice. I'm adamant about my rights, man. Don't violate me in no way. You ain't no attorney. What's your name? Give me your information. Now, what did you say? You start doing stuff, they be, oh my God, because they see something. They don't be wanting to take that chances, and you file a little complaint, and you get a little complaint, they'll bark down now. And none of these people are above being, it's easy to, file a complaint on a person. They can't take too many complaints now. You're holding your little position, you better think about that. All right. Now, alteration occurring by operation of the terms of a debt. All right. Instrument, except as provided in this section, an alteration of a legal right or an obligation that occurs by the operation of the terms of the debt instrument is not a modification. So what it's saying is, when you receive a debt, automatically it changes the terms, meaning that
ultimately the debt was due to the lender to pay you the balance. But when you sign it, you became the new owner and it altered the terms to now where you're the one issuing the debt as if it's you're the one making the original promise, but really the promise was really made by him. So when you don't understand modification of the terms of a debt, you'll never understand what's going on. You'll never understand. So that's why your brother come out and I do what I do because you deserve to know the truth. All right. You deserve a free understanding of things that you might not have been privileged to. All right. But God said that we was going to know and that this truth was going to set us free. So it's many of us out here working under one spirit, and that's to deliver us all from our own ignorance on many different levels. You know, we coming at it from all angles, and I'm just one of them brothers in that mission, spearheading it from this angle. You know what I'm saying? Because we got some sharp brothers out here and sisters, and we ain't playing no games with them. Believe that. All right, now check this out. Now it says an alteration that occurs by operation of the terms may occur automatically. For example, an annual resetting of the interest rate based upon value of an index, right? Or a specified increase in interest rates if the value of the collateral declines from the specified level, or may occur as a result of the exercise of an option, right? Provided to an issuer or a holder to change a term of a debt instrument. See? So it's telling you, you got to change the term. You got to change the term. Modification. When you demanding credits on your bills and stuff, you're supposed to modify those bills. You're supposed to change them, put negative numbers, demand that they be credited. You see what I'm saying? You got to modify the debt to reflect what it should reflect in the record. See what I'm saying? This is how it goes. Modification. Now, when we look at this word, where is it at? Obligations. Obligations means any valid evidence of indebtedness under general federal income tax principles. So when we deal with this, we got to deal with it from a federal level because the United States is a federal state. And any business done in the United States is in the federal district. So it's a federal obligation, even though, you know we on the land, but the business aspects of how business is done is in the United States. Got two jurisdictions, right? So understanding the obligation, right? The interest and the value, right? And the value is what? The fair market value, meaning that whatever purchase price that they sold it for, once you purchased it at that sold price, they got to recognize that you have the rights to use that same purchase price. That's the same value. They sold it to you. So why you can't use it once you buy it? Huh? You got the rights to use the same value in exchange for value. We exchanging reciprocal promises here. What is a reciprocal promise? Let me show you something. Uh, Hold up. Before I do that, let me keep going because I get off track. Exceptions, alteration described in this paragraph C2. Modifications, even if alteration occurred by operation of the terms of the debt instrument. Change in the obligors or nature of instrument, right? An alteration that results in a substitution of a new obligor, meaning that if the lender is the original debtor and he's the one offering the amounts to you as due balances, and you sign and become a new debtor who is now offering them same balances back to him and he's going to collect them from you, that's ludicrous. That is, man, you're driving me crazy because it's ludicrous. It don't make sense. It don't make sense. Why would you become a new debtor to a person that offered you balances? How? let you know, boy, we've been sleep like a mud, boy. An alteration that results in the substitution of a new debtor or a new obligor, the addition or the deletion of a co-obligor. You didn't let him off the hook. Let him off the hook. Or a change in whole or part in recourse nature of an instrument from recourse to non-recourse, or from a non-recourse to a recourse is a modification. So it's telling you you can sign without recourse. That's a modification. But when you sign without recourse, a lot of people doing it wrong. They just put sign without recourse, right? No recourse across the face of the instrument. And then sign. Right? But that is a modification. Right? So any changes in the terms of the debt that changes the outcome of the debt will be considered as a modification of the debt. Property that is not debt, an alteration that results in an instrument or property right that is not a debt for federal income tax purposes is a modification unless the alteration occurs pursuant to the holder's option under the terms of the instrument to convert the instrument into equity of the issuer. Notwithstanding paragraph C2 of this section, the rules of paragraph F7 of this section apply to determine whether the alteration modification results in an instrument or property right that is not a debt. So if you receive an instrument and it's issued to you, if you modify the instrument as a benefit, it's not considered as a debt. If you can accept and modify it to your benefit, it's not a debt. It's a benefit. It only becomes a debt if you accept becoming a new debtor and paying somebody else. Okay? Certain alterations resulting from the exercise of an option. What's an option? Okay? I want you to know the truth because you ain't going to leave here confused. All right? You're going to know what's going on and what you need to be doing. An alteration that results from the exercise of an option. What is exercise? Let's look this up. Exercise, when used in reference to an option, means an act of acceptance by the holder of an option of the offer to sell contained in the option. Let me read that again. Do you understand the power emanating from this screen right now? Do you feel the power? Let's read it again. The exercise. When you exercise, you're in motion, right? When used in reference to an option, and I told you an option is an offer, right? It means the act of acceptance by the holder of the option of the offer to sell contained in the option. In general, the time of the exercise is the time when the sale or the contract to sell between the corporation and the individual, a promise to pay the exercise price does not constitute an exercise of the option unless the holder of the option is subject to a personal liability on such promise. An agreement or an undertaking by a service provider to make payments under a stock purchase plan does not constitute an exercise of an option to the extent the payments may remain subject to withdrawal by or refund to the service provider. So they're saying that if you enter into an agreement and you don't actually receive the promise made, then that's not an exercise. An exercise is when you exercise the rights to do the benefit of a promise made by one entitled or obligated to perform, right? If it's still subject to withdrawal, meaning you got to claim your rights to withdraw your balances, they ain't paying you, then that's not an exercise, right? Well, let's get it. So let's get back to it. So in the case of an option exercised by the holder, right, An exercise of an option does not result in, or in the case of favorable or contingent payments, is not a reasonable expectation to result in a deferral of a reduction in any scheduled payment of interest or principal. In a unilateral option, for purposes of this section, an option is a unilateral only if, under the terms of an instrument or under applicable law, there does not exist at the time the option is exercised, or as a result of the exercise, a right of other parties to alter or terminate the instrument or put an instrument to the person who is related. So that's why, like, you can go to a gym membership, and when they give you the piece of paper to sign or fill out to do the membership, that's why you can endorse the back of the instrument to them, because you're paying the same. You're receiving a payment, a tender payment, and you're paying that tender back to them as the same tender you receive. So it ain't like you're paying the purchase price. The purchase price is what you're purchasing the instrument as a price. All right. So all these different things, man, like you can go and you can read this a little bit deeper. This thing fire. I ain't understand. This thing fire right here. This thing right here is fire, right? Because it helps you understand more about, modification of debts, and it gives examples, and so y'all go check this out. I'm gonna bring this one to a closure, man. I thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I will be coming back with a little bit more information. This right here was just one I had to get out. It's been sitting there, and I just been like, man, it's time. It's time. Just go ahead and drop it. Let them see the modification of the debt so they can understand how to modify the debts, okay? Because you got rights, and when those rights are there, you gotta stand and express those rights. Let me get this. My closing statements. Okay, so in my closing statements, man, what I want to say is whether something is possible would depend on your ability to conceive of it. Whatever you do put here, you can manifest in reality. When I started this journey, I just wanted to know the truth. That's it. I just wonder if we free and we have rights to benefit, and the only reason why we're not benefiting is because we lack understanding on how to benefit, then I wanted to find out and discover that information. I put in the work. I ain't gonna say that it's all me, because Andrea, she helped me out in so many ways to discover, to learn, to have the time to do the things that I'm doing, to be able to, bring this information to us so that we can understand, what's going on and what we need to do. In my own experiences, like when I modified that settlement agreement for my grandmother, I knew about modifications. I know you can modify application like a passport. Any attachment you add to it is a modification of the instrument. That's why we do attachments and stuff like that in order to modify or make any claims in reference to property. As we deliver it, we should deliver it with our claim against it. You know what I'm saying? Or any rights or benefits we claiming for it. All that should go along with it, and learning those things is critical when you've been taught that you don't have no property, you don't own nothing. So the whole time you looking at physical property, cars, houses, you're not understanding tangible and intangible assets. In fact, nobody even ever taught us what assets was. Nobody told me when I go get a job that I had to issue an asset to the company to even work. Nobody ever told me that. They never told me I had to issue an asset to the school to be in school. They just said you had to fill out an application. Nobody never really explains to us what's actually happening. So it's a lot of deceptive acts and practices being perpetrated against the people A lot of companies are not even giving you disclosures. You know how many companies I've dealt with that don't give you disclosures that it's a credit agreement? They don't even tell you about the amount financed. You got companies issuing leases, not giving you an APR, not telling you none of that stuff. That's a violation of law. You can't issue a principal loan without stating its interest rates. So it's like once you start realizing that it's two sides of every coin, and you only been getting favor on one side, and if that's really what you call it, it ain't even favor. You've been taxed on the same side of the coin, never being able to leverage the other side of your coin. Somebody issuing you a coin and only allowing you to leverage on one side and pay from one side. It's just like, and you realize what they doing and how long they've been doing and getting away with it. You entitled to proceeds. So every month you get a bill stating the amount of proceeds that you're supposed to receive on the asset that the company holding in your name for that account. So every month they issue a bill from that asset, and it states how much is due to the actual holder of the asset, which is the child. We'll say, oh, he got my legal name on it. That's the debtor. They charging the debtor. They're not charging no damn debtor. Don't you understand that every bill is money that the beneficiary is entitled to, that the trustee is actually allocating to the principal loan agreement or to the principal asset? He's allocating interest payments to the beneficiary. How long do you gotta how long we gotta do this before we keep playing and people keep acting like they know? Like, how long we gonna keep playing this game? You want me to pull it up and show it to you? Because Brother Isaiah, I can prove everything I say. If you don't know by now, you figure it out sooner or later that I ain't nothing to play with at all. I don't play no games at all. You ask anybody that know me, they tell you, brother, he don't do no playing. Brother, serious. 90% of the time, I'm learning how to love and laugh, and because my life has been serious. So I take a lot of things serious, man. Uh, I gave up the television. I don't need nobody to tell me no visions no more, especially if those visions are not right, you know? So, I mean, I don't even, I haven't even watched I haven't watched TV in so long. I couldn't even tell, sometimes I can't even tell you what days of the week it is. I ain't keeping up with no time and none of that. I ain't on nobody's clock but my own. That's what they don't want. They don't want you to liberate yourself. They don't want you to be free from your indebtedness. Because if you didn't have those bills that you think are bills, if you know how to leverage those accounts, it'll change your whole lifestyle in a blink of an eye. Did you know perception is very powerful? Right now, you perceive that you're a debtor, but if you were to perceive that you were entitled to a benefit and that those same things that you call debts were actually credit benefits, instead of looking at a due balance as something you pay, but something you receive, if you change your perspective, you can change your reality. Change the way you think and change your reality. It's just that simple. With that said, man, I leave y'all as I always do in love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, and equality for us all. I catch y'all in the next video. But until then, make sure you learn how to modify your debts for your benefit.